As a leader, you cannot lead the people without caring for them. Leadership is not just a process, it is a relationship. If you only focus on outcomes, the people will feel it and they will follow you out of duty, but not out of devotion. But when you genuinely care, ask them about their families and listen to their ideas, remember their goals, they will give you something no spreadsheet can measure, and no discriminatory efforts, not because they have to, but because they want to. Care is not a bonus skill, it is a requirement every good leader needs. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, peace-loving people of Plateau State. Glad to be welcoming you to yet another fascinating episode of your number one dynamic socio-political breakfast tonic and conscience-pricking program on radio. It is Political Update coming to you live on Silverbird, Rhythm 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Today is the 12th day of February, the year 2026. My name is Pam Dunquiz, and of course, the King of Boys, Ambassador Bello Lukman, is already seated to take us down our destination of 12 noon with political analysis. Bello, good morning, and today is 12th of February.
Of course, 12th of February, and you ask yourself, what have you been able to achieve productively in the year 2026? Because this is the second month of the 12th month year already. So you should be able to take stock and have a reflection. And like you said rightly, leadership is about compassion, leadership is about charity, leadership is about kindness. And to what extent are you actually achieving all this in your leadership stride? Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, egalitarian passengers that listen to us out there with better breath. Special good morning to the two musketeers, Ugo Fine Boy journalists, and our very good friend David Friday Smokey. Good morning to you.
All right, today you have all the time to add your voice to the conversation. But remember, no name calling, no stereotyping, and no stigmatization of any kind. Comments made on this platform are not the opinion of Silverbird, Reading 93.7 FM or TV, but rather the opinion of those who make them. And please also have it in mind that on this platform, emotions of any kind are too luxurious for us. We cannot afford them, so please be guided. We'll give you the phone numbers to be on standby, so that once we open the phone lines, you can add your voice. 080-6464-1536 is the number to call, and 080-2971-0202 for text messages. The WhatsApp platform is already open. So, Bello, if you are ready, let's take the first story on the Punch newspaper, and it has it as religious freedom violation. APC NNPP back Kwankwaso as U.S. sanction tensions rises across the country. Now, Bello, when we talk about issues like this, religious freedom and the rest of them, of course, a lot of Nigerians are already seated with better breath to hear what we are going to say. But then, let's bring it on the table. Whether we like it or not, in one way or the other, we have also participated in one act of violation of religious violence, freedom, in one way or the other. Why am I bringing this? Bello, to be seen or said that one is complicit to an act, you must have probably provided material or aid or facilitate or serve as a lookout or a driver or do a cover-up, conscious silence, psychological encouragement or approval. Now ask yourself, whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim, as far as you are a Nigerian, in what category did you fall under what I just read out now? Because whether we like it or not, some of us always sit down, want to hear who is the victim, who is the perpetrator. Once we hear the victim, once we hear the perpetrator, then we now know what to say, whether to condemn or whether to celebrate. We have seen across the length and breadth of this country where in some cases, when Muslims are killed, some people celebrate. When Christians are killed in other places, some people celebrate. So whether we like it or not, most of us are guilty of these allegations. But then we are saying, as Nigerians, if we don't get our acts right, people outside this country, people outside this continent will continue to dictate to us and also tell us about ourselves.
Quiz is only in Nigeria that we actually choose perpetrators to empathize with. It's only Nigerians that we choose victims to also empathize with in most of these cases, because we are holier than the Pope. In this part of the world, we are holier than the Imam. And why am I saying this? And I love the fact that you're bringing it from the generic to the specific. Because before we go into the discussion, to what extent do we condemn killings whenever they are not actually killings of our kith and kin, of our tribe and tongue, of our language people? That's exactly the main problem that is also really affecting us in this part of the world. I saw the defense of Magban, and I asked the question. For example, when Yelwata happened, when killings happened in Rio, when killings happened in Barkiladi, when killings happened in Bassa, did we see vehemence in terms of their condemnation? These are the things that actually form the fulcrum of record keeping, that people might also say, even though you are not the one, but to what extent did you condemn this on this platform? Why are we bombastic whenever even one person is killed? So that nobody will accuse us of bias. Nobody will remind you that no, when this actually happened in a certain place, I remember when there was killing in Oshu, and as at that time, we were vehement about killings in other places. And because of our own affinity with such places, if you see my condemnation, you would think the number was actually more than the 7 people that were killed. And as at that time, some people say no, it was a clash in Oshu State between the Hausas and the Yoruba. And I asked the question, where are the Yoruba victims? Because if it is a clash, then we should be able to have victims from the 2 different sides. But when I'm having victims that are just on one side, and the press still chose to describe the situation as a clash, I say no, it is an attack. Because if we say it's a clash, then there should actually be victims in the 2 sides. But in this case, all people killed were actually members of the Hausa ethnic group as at that time. So how do you describe that as a clash? So again, even the press is also complicit in this whole thing. We always choose where to belong. I told you that a similar situation that happened between Yunusa, you remember Yunusa, Yellow, that took a 13-year-old girl from Bayelsa and he brought her to Kano State. And thankfully, he actually first went to the emir of Kano at that time, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. And Sanusi told him, take this girl back. No matter the love, no matter the affection, no matter the emotion that you actually share, this girl is a minor. And when you have an educated person like that telling you something and you refuse to learn, then you definitely learn the hard way. As at that time, Stella Damascus and every other Nigerian became an activist. Because as far as they were concerned, it is actually an agenda. And the way they were putting it, it was as if it was an agenda orchestrated by JNI. At the end of the day, Nigeria was boiling as a result of the action of 2 people that were in love with each other. But a similar situation is happening as we speak right now, where a DSS officer was able to pick a 16-year-old girl and was able to convince and persuade that 16-year-old girl to his home. And in fact, he has even converted her from her religion. But how many of such activists as at that time are still speaking now? And that's why we keep asking the question, why are we not fair? Why are we not ensuring transparency and accountability in our speech, in the way we also condemn, so that going forward, we should be able to be described as people that actually have value, that have tradition, that have norms, that have culture. So let's insist on the right things.
All right, I think we need to go on a very short break. Then when we return, the program will continue. This is Political Update. Please stay here. All right, welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird Rhythm 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. We just went on a very short break and we received calls and text messages. Probably some people thought that the microphone actually went off, but then no, we actually allow our students from Fellowship Baptist Academy who are here on excursion, and they are right here with us in the studio and they are monitoring what is happening. So Bello, as we were saying before we went on that break, talking about condemnation and choice of what to condemn and what not to condemn, what to sympathize and what not to sympathize, who to sympathize with and not who not to sympathize with. We are always bombastic on this platform. Why? Because every human life matters. We were first human beings before we become Christians, before we become Muslims, before we become traditionalists, before we become even atheists. We were first human beings before we become Birom, Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba, and the rest of them. I've always told anybody that cares to listen below that if today I was given birth to in China and all my years I live in China without hearing one word in Birom language. If I come back to Plateau State, I cannot speak any language except Chinese language.
Yeah, Kwamdokus, there must be unanimity and there must be a confluence point. That's a point where we meet each other. That's why I love the name Search for Common Ground. Once there is a common ground between the Muslims and the Christians, between the Igbo and the Yoruba, between the Hausa and the Fulani, between different tribes, between different ethnic groups. Why am I saying this? You remember vividly when Donald Trump said the same similar thing about South Africa.
Yeah.
Even the white farmers in South Africa rejected the claim. They took the one that they thought was actually right because of altruism, because of selflessness. But in this part of the world, we know that the greatest religion in the world is Muslims and Christians, Islam and Christianity. But unfortunately, in other parts of the world, these two religions are collaborating. But in this part of the world, we see ourselves as enemies. And that's the reason why you discover that instead of us to be collaborating, instead of us to form a cement bond, instead of us to have a melting pot, we always look at ourselves as adversaries. This is the reason why you will see that once the Muslims are going right, then the Christians will be going left. Why would you see situations happening, for example, in Zamfara today? How many Christians are condemning what is happening there?
Hello.
When killings happen in Rio,
yes.
When killings happen in Bassa, how many Muslims condemn it? And that's the reason why we are unique on this platform. And that's why we always ask the question, why are we setting this agenda? Because by the time we get into these particular specifics, we will be able to have given a context to what we're about to discuss today. Now let's go to the specifics.
Yeah.
Kwankwaso, we all know that in 2003, because Kwankwaso supported a Christian as a presidential candidate, he lost the election in Kano State. So many people have even forgotten. He supported Olusegun Obasanjo against the wave of Muhammadu Buhari. In 2003, he lost the election. You also remember vividly that when he was also contesting for president, he brought in Bishop Idahosa, a Christian, to be his deputy. So I really don't know what research the United States Congressman really more conducted that actually made him to conclude that indeed Kwankwaso was among the people, or is among the people that is actually accused of religious intolerance. When he was the governor in Kano, even the Christians in Sabon Gari came out to say that indeed, in terms of tolerance, in terms of acceptability, in terms of inclusivity, he has actually made Kano a home for us. So I know where this is coming from. You remember vividly when Donald Trump also mentioned the fact that Nigeria was persecuting Christians. Kwankwaso was among the few politicians that came out to say no, even Muslims are also affected. United States should rather collaborate with Nigerians to fight terrorism and not even bring in division, because when you go to Kwara, for example, what happened in Kwara, is it only Christians that were affected? Majority of the people in Woro are Muslims, 99.9%. Should we pretend that that did not happen because it is not suiting the narrative that United States has already established, and some few elements that also want that to happen, so as to make it look like no, it's only one particular religion that is always affected? How about Zabarmari? How about the incident that happened in Bogu? So when you also put all this together, then you would actually ask yourself whether we're getting the premise right. Because once you don't get your premise right, then your conclusion, because I also saw really more, immediately Kwankwaso tweeted that. We saw his reaction underneath, where he said you introduce Sharia, but United States is having one of its best allies in Saudi Arabia, a country that practices Sharia. United States is having one of its best allies in Qatar, a country that practices Sharia. So if introducing Sharia alone is the reason for this, then they should withdraw all their affinity with Qatar. They should withdraw all their affinity with Egypt. They should withdraw all their affinity with other countries that are still practicing Sharia. Let's not be generic. There are people, indeed, that have made inflammatory statements that I thought that the United States would have also gone after. That way, we will actually be among those that will be celebrating and clapping today. But till this moment, nobody has even pinpointed one thing, or one statement that is inflammatory, that is religiously in tone, that Kwankwaso has actually committed or mentioned, that might have also been the reason for his name to be the only name among the entire politicians in Nigeria. Come on.
Bello, if you ask me, I will tell you for free that maybe there's something that the US is not telling us about Konkoso. Maybe they have a personal rift, which, if you ask me,
then
this example, using Konkoso is a wrong example. Because whether we like it or not, as you rightly said, there are clerics, both from the Christian and Muslim side, that have used unpitiable words and even instigating people against each other.
When Deborah happened,
yes,
was Konkoso the governor?
He wasn't the governor.
So why are they not even making reference to practical examples?
So our question this morning is, why pinpointing Konkoso? Because if you had mentioned the life of Pantami, who once said that what Osama bin Laden did was something that he sees Osama as a more Muslim than himself. If you had mentioned Pantami this morning, we will say yes. There was one man that came up. He claimed to be a pastor. He called himself Pastor Erikichi. Where is that man today? So people like this, when you use them as example, will stand with you. But when you bring a man that to some of us, we feel that he has that patriotism of nationhood in him, then you are using him as an example of violating freedom of religion, then I think we are just getting the wrong.
Set a single precedent. You've not giving us his record to say that no, this is the reason. At social time, apart from the fact that he reacted, which we expect every Nigerian politicians, not just Konkoso, and this is my worry. That's why I don't keep quiet on any issue, so that you can quote me anywhere that this is exactly what I said on this particular issue. Because if you keep quiet, you are throwing others under the bus.
Sure.
That's exactly what other politicians have just done. So let the United States be factual. Let the United States as the democratic capital of the world. Even the premise of saying there is only one religion that is killed in Nigeria is wrong. Let's tell ourselves the truth.
Bello,
is it not a slap on the people of Woro this morning if we are actually saying that no? So they are not human beings, that they were also killed, 175 of them?
Bello, let me ask you a rhetorical question. The governor of Benue State, is he a Christian or a Muslim?
He's a Christian. He's a pastor.
And the same man came out to say that what happened in his state was not a genocide. That's a Christian. So, if a man like that said that nothing went wrong, the chairman of Kajuru, who came out to say that people were not kidnapped in his community, we have seen so many denials, even the issue of this school. We are coming to it very soon.
Yes.
But then, Bello, we started getting it wrong, if you ask me, which we've also discussed it on this platform severally, that until and unless we go back to the days of communal living, where if today a Fulani man that's living in the bush but has affinity with people in the city, and he hears that a child of his friend that they don't share the same religion or tribe is giving the parent headache, he will travel from that village, from that bush, to come and reprimand that child. We said it on this platform. We said anytime something happens, if it affects Christians, some Muslims keep quiet.
Yes.
If it affects Muslims, some Christians keep quiet. To some people, they might come out in public and condemn it in totality. But when they go to their cocoons, what they do is they play music, dance to it, buy soft drink or buy wine, buy chicken, and celebrate that it is their problem. But whether we like it or not, what started in the northeast as a child's play, some people thought, no, it's Meduguri's problem. Today, these same people have spread across the length and breadth of Nigeria. There's no region from the northwest to the north central, to the northeast, to the southwest, to the south-south, to the southeast. No part of Nigeria is free of this evil. And why is this thriving? Because if we want to do a thorough investigation, Bello, I can tell you for free that we will end up getting some people that have formed a syndicate. Those that actually benefit from this crime, they are in the city. But the foot soldiers are the ones in the bush. We have seen people, both Christians and Muslims, orchestrating their own kidnap. And they collect the money. Nobody gets to know until when the authorities, when the security investigate and get to the root of the matter. The same, some of our colleagues that were the ones shouting and being bombastic, by the time they start hearing the names of the perpetrators, both Christians and Muslims, they will never go back to withdraw the report that they initially gave.
Quiz, I told you about the case of that DSS officer right now. that is not even making headlines in most of the newspapers apart from Daily Trust. Should that be the case? When Yellow Yunusa's case happened, the pressure was so much that the governor of that state was the one that actually took over the case, and he actually collaborated with Attorney General to ensure that Yellow went to 7 years in prison. But today, even to report the case of that Walida in Jigawa, nobody is even reporting it. Is that not hypocrisy of the highest order? And we call ourselves one country, we call ourselves one nation. Is crime supposed to have color? Is crime supposed to have religion? Is crime supposed to have ethnic group? Do we choose, for example, what to report because the perpetrator shares the same affinity with us? Is that the kind of country we want to bequeath to the next generation? Again, look at the story we talked about yesterday. In Angwon border, Gusau, Zamfara state, a woman was kidnapped alongside her children.
Okay.
And they were taken to the forest. You saw the way these bandits were hitting this woman.
I watched that video
with her neighbors.
I don't want to
with
watch
the boot of the gun. Not even the boot, the mouth of the gun.
That's the rifle of the
exactly
the mouth of the gun. Yeah.
Does anybody care about the religion of those people? This is why we should always come together to condemn evil perpetrated by the evil ones. Because the more we are divided, the more we are blessing the perpetrator. Because that's exactly their aim. When Boko Haram started, was it not churches they started attacking?
Sure.
As the that time division started emanating, there were people that were celebrating. No, it is not us they are hitting. So leave them to ruminate over their fate. But because you refuse to hang the monster grew up to a monstrous level. And the boomerang happened. It started coming back to the mosque. What happened afterwards? If we had condemned in the first place, would it have actually reached that level? So once we have evil, let's call it its name. There is no evil that has a religion. There's no evil that has an ethnic group. Evil is evil, no matter who actually is perpetrating it. That is the mistake we are making in this part of the world. The more we continue to hide our own criminals, because we share tribe, we share religion, we share tongue, we share language, we share ethnic group with them, the more problem we'll be bequeathing to the next generation. There was a time that people in different areas were having guns, arming themselves, and they will tell you that no, we are arming ourselves so that we can protect the area. Then when there is no longer crisis in areas, the people in the area that accommodated, that enabled them to own the guns, became the victim. That is exactly how not creating the monster will have been a philosophy. But when you allow a monster to be created, and when the boomerang happened, then you will actually be the one to bear the brunt. There was a time even in Tafawa Balewa, at 5 p.m. you must close your shop.
Very true. Here on the plateau.
Not because there was a coffee.
Yeah.
But because you are very, very sure that those boys will come out inside Keke Napep brazenly with audacity to enter shops, collecting phones, and nobody dares to even come to face them because they are having guns with them. Not until they employ vigilantes. In most of these areas, these people were just running riot, riding roughshod on the people's intelligence.
Bello, something happened in Canada. 9 people, I think 8 or so, were shot dead in a school shooting. Canada came to a standstill. Not just that school, the entire country. And you know how they describe it? The worst school shooting in decades in Canada. Other countries, world leaders, not their ambassadors, world leaders, including United States of America, were commiserating with them. Do you know why? Because the leaders take every life to be sacrosanct as the other.
Exactly.
But in this part of the world, Bello, from Plateau to Benue to Nasarawa to Katsina to Zamfara to Sokoto to Kebbi to Kano to Jigawa to Yobe, Adamawa, Taraba, mention Kwara State, Kogi State, and the rest of them. Tell me of all these things that have been happening, whether the National Assembly members, whether the state governors, whether the president has actually taken out time to say that immediately they had that this happened, they cut short whatever activity they were carrying out because lives have been lost. We saw where Bush actually had to cut his journey because of what happened in the United States, where the bombing happened. But in this part of the world, hundreds will be kidnapped. Nobody will say anything.
Outrage.
100 will be killed. Nobody will say anything. So you ask yourself, what is our concern and what is our priority. Just wait below. If today there's going to be any reception for the campaigns, that's where you see caravan of governors moving to that state. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. This is Political Update. Stay here. Welcome back from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird Radio 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Bello, before we went on that break, we're asking the question, what is the priority of our leaders? What is the priority or what preoccupies the minds of our leaders whenever things like this happen? In other countries, one life is lost and you see a president coming to make a statement, a strong one for that matter. But in this part of the world, Bello, when hundreds are killed, you hardly hear any statement, except maybe when Nigerians shout to high heavens. That's when you see somebody coming to make statement and say that the reason why we didn't actually speak at that time, we were studying the situation.
Yeah, Pablo Quiz, in this part of the world, to get people that are very selfless and altruistic is by connection. Let's link this with the issue that Bayo Ojulari, the GMD of NNPC, recently said. He actually said that we have always said that the political interference is the reason why our refineries are where they are today. Is that not what we have always said on this platform? That indeed political interference is actually shaping the state running of the refineries. Now, marry this with this issue we are talking about. In America, when politics is intersecting with the economy, they look for the interest of America in the two.
Sure.
In Nigeria, when politics is intersecting with the economy, what normally happens is that you can predict that politics will overwhelm the economy. Even when the economy affects poverty, the economy affects inequality, the economy affects unemployment, the economy affects distribution, the economy affects production. But politics will always override the economy whenever there is actually a meeting point. Now ask yourself, what is the obligation of the NNPC? The obligation is to keep refineries running regardless of technical condition or commercial viability that always erode standard that we always see in this part of the world. Now, economists should always win. But in Nigeria, like I said earlier on, politics always win whenever there is a conflict. NNPC is actually the major role player when it really comes to the production. And that's why we always have the refineries in the first place. What is the role? Is to ensure that they refine products and make them available to Nigerians. And that's the reason we build the refineries to operate on economic pedestal and not politics. But what did we see? We experienced what is called chronic refinery underperformance. We undermine efficiency. We undermine meritocracy. We now imbibe what is called turnaround maintenance. Plants will be shut for years and workers will still be paid handsomely. Where else does this happen if it is not in Nigeria? And what is the consequence of this? Chronic importation, higher fiscal costs, accelerated asset deterioration, and once political interference is eliminated and operation decision is guided by technical survey, then we wouldn't have a situation where other countries will be dictating to us. Because in most cases, we don't even use our best 11 to actually go on diplomacy. So when people are actually given positions, not because they merit it, but because of their political patronage, because of their political support, then you should expect that even countries that are not supposed to look you in the eye, in the international community, will look in you in the eye, poke their hat in your eye. What did really more say recently? That the only way to protect Christians from Nigeria is to divide the country. So is that the underlying reason for all this noise all this while? So that we can be very, very cautious about some of these particular things and the way we are also playing into their hands.
Bello, the reason why probably Kwankwaso is almost alone in this, but except for the sympathy of some few patriotic Nigerians and not politicians. Because when we talk about politicians, every politician will speak based on the interest that he has in the case. If he feels that he has sympathy for Kwankwaso and probably is going to help him to achieve his political interest, that's why he will speak for him.
Yes.
But if he feels that Kwankwaso is a threat for his ambition going forward, he will be the one to even tell the United States that indeed you've not even heard the worst about this man. Bello, by this morning, we should expect that patriotic Nigerians should look United States in the eyes and tell anyone who cares to listen that this man you are using as an example is the wrong example and you can never get the right result.
At all.
But unfortunately,
because evidence is different from fact.
yes,
Bush is different from the garden. Quality is different from quantity. In this case, we need very pragmatic evidence. Maybe they have an evidence that is in the public glare that we don't know, or that's not in the public glare that needs to be known. This is exactly what we are looking for. But I took out time to search for antecedents of Kwankwaso, pedigree of Kwankwaso this morning, and I googled. I didn't even see anything related to religious persecution, especially of Christians, when he was a governor. Was it when he was a senator? Was it when he was Minister of Defense? We need to know also, because we are researchers in Nigeria. We need to know.
Bello, unfortunately, what normally preoccupies the minds of our leaders is issues that will not allow for Nigerians to have trust and confidence in the system. Bello, if we want to do a calculation of how much had been spent and is being still being spent in the power sector, a lot of Nigerians will go mad. If today we want to have a comprehensive figure of what had been spent in NNPC without any production, without any result, some Nigerians will be in the psychiatric ward this morning, because they will not want to believe that this actually happened in a country where there's governance. Bello, I did a little research this morning and I discovered that contrary to what the National Assembly are trying to tell us, especially those senators, that they know if we want to do electronic transmission of result in real time before 10:30, they know that they have lost the election. They say because there's no network. Bello, there's something that is called low Earth orbit, LEO. That's a satellite that is in the space, and that is what most of these bandits will learn they are using, even when there's no network, that you can connect as far as you are within the range of either 500 to 2,000 kilometers above the earth, above the surface of the earth. Little wonder bandits make TikTok, they make videos from the bush where you think there's no network. And I checked and discovered that with that LEO, that's low Earth orbit, you can transmit anything from any part of the world, and it's here in Nigeria. So we can still use that one to transmit results in real time. So if they don't know, we're educating them this morning.
I'm the quiz. A governor recently called for the release of 70 bandits.
Yes.
In his state. His name is not on the list.
No.
A sheikh has perpetually turned himself to the mouthpiece,
the consultant
of bandits. He has never talked about the victims. He has never talked about this particular video that has gone viral. I'm sure it has also come to his own doorstep. He has not condemned it. Sheikh Gumi, he is not on the list. So where is Kwankwaso's name popping up from? That's why I asked the question really more. Does he know the road to Nigeria? Has he ever been to Africa? So that you don't stay far away. Just the way most of these journalists that are in Lagos, that don't know anything about Plateau State. Something will be happening in Kwampan. They don't even know the distance between Kwampan and Jos. It's about 4 to 3 hours. But they will tell you that Jos is on fire.
The same people, in fact, there are people...
And they will be arguing with you. I had cause to call some of them at a certain time. I said, I stay in Jos. You stay in Lagos. Have you ever been to Plateau? Have you ever been to the north? And you are arguing with me about Plateau State?
Bello, I remembered very well, I watched a video of late MK Abiola, and they asked him about what he was going to do in the health sector. Is he going to bring professionals from abroad to address the issue? He said, how can I bring somebody who does not know about malaria to come and treat malaria in Nigeria?
Exactly.
We have professionals more than enough, but we will not allow them to work because probably they don't share the same political affiliation with us. Probably they don't share the same tribe with us. Probably they don't share the same religion with us. Bello, you remember the last time we went to Jude and we met with his CMD, and he introduced a man, Dr. Joshua Njem, who is said is one of the best cardiologists in Nigeria, and he has gotten a lot of offers to leave this country, and he said no, he will continue to contribute his own quota to ensure that people that has this cardiac arrest and the rest of them will not die as a result of lack of professionals. How many leaders in this part of the world have actually said can we go and look for this person and his likes across the length and breadth of this country to see how we can actually put to rest issues around cardiac arrest? No, we'll always wait and see somebody that actually played a vital role for us to ascend to that seat. Whether the person knows the job, whether he doesn't know the job, we'll just give him that appointment and tell him that because of that role you played during our campaign, we are compensating you. Little wonder we are where we are today. Bello, I find it difficult to comprehend that somebody that probably just had a secondary school certificate is the one that is the Minister of State for Defense across the length and breadth of a country that has been ravaged with insecurity, and is the one actually leading professionals in that field. He tells them what to do and what not to do.
And you remember vividly that he was also a bandit sympathizer. Because there was a certain time that a senator from his state was also supporting his stance. And what was his stance? That these bandits need to be called, they need to be educated, they need to be sensitized. Someone that is killing, someone that is maiming, someone that is destroying in this high proportion. There are some people that when you see the antecedent, you know that there is remorse in what they are doing. But these people are recalcitrant. These people are unrepentant. These people have formed a penchant of inglory. They have formed a penchant of ensuring that they leave trademark of tears, sorrow, and anguish. That is the people. Are those the people that you think that they can actually have a remorse?
All right, Bello, let's take this other story. El-Rufai anticipates arrest as police detain allies. And you ask yourself the question, is it only when we leave or things fall apart between us, that's when we begin to hear what used to happen between a man and a woman inside their room because the husband and wife are divorced? Now you hear a lot of things. What you thought never happened between the husband and wife, you begin to hear them. I watched the video of El-Rufai where he alleged heavy and weighty allegations that 100 billion naira has always been deducted as the last time he checked from the federation account without consulting the National Assembly, without consulting the state assemblies, because it is a federation account and not an account run by the executive alone or any ministry, department and agency under the federal government. It is a joint account. It's an account that belongs to Nigerians. And to him, he said, or he alleged, that for 15 months, as of the last time he checked, 100 billion was being deducted, and he cannot tell where that money went to, and nobody is speaking over that issue. And if you do your calculation very well, 100 billion times 15 is like 1.5 trillion naira if the exchange rate is around 1,500 naira. But Bello, let's ask ourselves the question, of all the years that you have been a member of that party, did you actually tell Nigerians what Nigerians didn't know, or you shielded it in secrecy because you are on the table?
And if you had been a minister in the same government, will you be singing the same song? These are questions that Nigerians are asking. But on the other side, we also want to ensure that when you do the crime, you do the time.
Yeah.
If you've not done anything, then you shouldn't be persecuted. I remember vividly the interview of Peter Odili, where he said that when he was contesting for president in this country, he only went to Aso Rock on invitation of Ribadu. And they showed him, and El-Rufai was seated there, according to him, that they showed him some alleged corrupt tendencies of his government. And somebody whispered to him that the only thing you need to do right now is to shelve your ambition. And he asked one question: if I shelve my ambition, will all these allegations disappear? They told him yes. Is that free? Is that fair? Is that credible? Is that how to build institutions?
Is that patriotic?
Is that patriotic? Is that zealous enough for nation building? But that is the country we find ourselves. And since then, in fact, even afterwards, when the next government attempted to even bring up the corruption allegation, the man went to court, and his wife, don't forget, is a justice in the Supreme Court. At the end of the day, they got a perpetual injunction for the EFCC not to open the file again.
Ever.
And the EFCC did not appeal. That was at the High Court level. The EFCC did not appeal that case for 16 years. Till today. So that is the country we find ourselves. I love it when people do the crime, they should do the time. But I hate it when people are being persecuted. Persecuted. When people are being persecuted, then it also throws the rule of law into the dustbin. because the confidence that is supposed to be reposed on institutions will not be there. So people have asked the question. Malami has about 57 houses. Most of these houses, some of them are as much as 8 billion
naira.
Most of these houses were purchased when he was the minister, when he was the Attorney General of the Federation. In his defense, he said he got gifts from people, but he forgets that there is a constitutional provision that negates what he is actually even bringing up as a defense. Then you ask yourself, how did that man become an SAN? If a man can be the Attorney General of the Federation and does not know that there is a proviso, there is a caveat, there is an addendum that says that as a public officer, you should not accept gifts from people, especially contractors, because it will impugn on your judgment in terms of the way you are going to be giving them contracts. And at the end of the day, most of these houses, he cannot account for how he was able to get them. When that man is being prosecuted, do you call that one persecution? No. Let's go after people. But then, on the other side, if Malami were to be in the APC, and this is my worry, will he be going through this ordeal at this moment?
Well, no. It's quite disappointing, and it's quite...
We were told that a former governor of Delta State embezzled money that is more than $1 trillion.
1.3 trillion.
As at that time, the case was well celebrated across the length and breadth of this country. And we are thinking that at least for the first time, all this while, we always hear embezzlement in billions. We've never had in trillion. So now that it's in trillions, at least even if it is 10 count charge, one of them will actually succeed in court, and we might see another former governor in prison. But when the man decided to leave for the ruling party, when was the last time he was arraigned in court again after his defection by the EFCC?
Can't agree less with you. Let's see if we can pick the first call. Bello. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Pandum Quest. Good morning, son of Lagos that becomes somebody that knows because
Now, who did
was correct from Terminus.
Go ahead, you have 40 seconds.
Bless you people for saying the truth, fellow and Thomas.
Thank you.
You see, this is our country where that the truth will always have the tomorrow truth comes in. You see, that is on the issue of our youth. Crying about bandits, Boko Haram, and other things that killing us. How can we use our hands to kill ourselves? What happened yesterday? A youth was using this stretcher to be running along the line to he lifts his leg and the guy fell down. Motor just clamped him, both his head. You see, this is what I'm talking about. People should not be taking their life for granted because of...
Hello?
Where did this happen, please?
Opposite, railway gate. Look at this.
Wow.
Yes, Motra Mama do it here.
A motor killed the youth?
Yes, the guy there, the friend, everything to it out. Honestly, it's very painful that I contact with their family.
Wow.
So thank you. May God bless that.
Thank you for giving us that update, Bello.
His first message is from an Arsenal fan, and don't forget that we have a make or mar match today. Good morning, Bello MC PDK. Thank you for your analysis. May the good Lord bless you and your family for the work you're doing. Pray for Plateau in our country. Also pray for our leaders regards to all the staff of Justino Emil and all Arsenal fans. Bello Brentford versus Arsenal today, 9 p.m. May God give Arsenal victory. Bolos Daniel, I say a very big amen to that prayer. And this was from someone that says, good morning, United Nations Peace Ambassador and MC PDK. Nigerians show concern over the controversial election bill amendment. If Nigerians shall do the same during any election, irrespective of clan and religion, Nigeria will become better. Sule is in Lasisi, and if you ask me of somebody that is patriotic and zealous about a better nation, that person is Sule from Lasisi.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, your name and location, please.
My name is Sule. I'm calling you from
Sule, you have just 20 seconds. Make it fast, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Definitely, we thank God for all this that you are doing. You are sensitizing people because if none of this type of program, the people will not collaborate and help ourselves through this political and this controversial amendment of this bill. So I hope that we will continue to do the needful. May God continue to give you the energy to do this thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sule. Let's just pick the last call and we'll wrap up. 08064641536 is the number to call. Please turn down the volume of your radio when you make that call. I think having a little network
I want to conclude by calling Honorable Aliyu Sani Madakin Guinea, an NMPP member from Kano, to also let the world know that you can never be a tiger and a lion at the same time. He is the deputy minority leader of the House of Representatives, and that makes him a principal officer of the House. But then he was actually seen at an APC caucus meeting while maintaining his stand as NMPP member because of probably what some people say the spoil of office. In one way or the other, he does not want to leave the money that is being enjoyed as a deputy minority leader, and yet in the other breath he wants to also associate himself with APC. And the deputy minority leader is a very, very fantastic office and is a fundamental office in the House. So if you want to join APC, can you please join the APC and remove the toggle of NMPP so that we know that indeed we need a new minority leader in the House.
Well, if Wike can do it and survive, I think some people are learning from him. Alright, that's the most time will permit us to take this morning. On behalf of every other person that made this program a huge success, Ugo, thank you for always being there behind the camera. David Friday, thank you for producing us. My name is Pam Dunquiz. Keep listening to this station. That is the only station authorized to make you happy. Hope to see you at the other side of sunrise tomorrow. Do have yourselves a lovely day.